past 6 months due to the political instability in both Kenya and South Sudan. And dealing with the political situation in Kenya, in studio with me are two politicians who represent both houses of parliament, and we're discussing this in greater detail. But before we went on break, Honorable Odinga, we were talking of NASA's end game with these demonstrations, with these rallies, with the calls for civil disobedience, even as President Uhuru Kenyatta is sworn in on Tuesday. You've made it very clear as the opposition that a Nusu Mkate government is not part of the options. The Jubilee team has offered a few proposals. One of them, like Honorable Cherargei was saying, was talks to incorporate the opposition in Parliament in a way, perhaps in the Senate, perhaps within the National Assembly, to more empower the opposition as we move forward. Isn't that a good solution? And if not, what then is NASA's solution to all of this?
Okay, you know, when you have made a resolve to fight for reforms, you don't stop before the real reforms are in place. That would mean betrayal to the people of Kenya.
Right.
We have identified a number of issues which we need to tackle as a country. So we are not going to stop before they are put into their correct perspective. Like when we talk of electoral reforms, if we fail to achieve it, then it's needless to go for any other polls in this country.
Right.
So before we even think of talking with Jubilee on anything, they must accept to lay foundation on how we are going to reform this country so that we can deliver to Kenyans equally.
All right, and that is something, Honorable Cherargei, that Jubilee hasn't quite addressed in terms of the concerns that NASA has been leveling, that there needs to be an overhaul in the government structure, an overhaul within the structure of the electoral body altogether. Even after the swearing in of President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has made it clear that uniting the nation will be his first agenda, do you think these are issues that should take top priority?
I think what I had insisted earlier on is that losing an election is very painful. And I think also as part of cancelling process, they will tell you there is also a stage called acceptance. We hope within time our good people, our fellow Kenyans will accept that Jubilee did win an election. It was well upheld by the Constitution. What we are looking at, if you discuss about the issues of electoral reforms, you remember very well before we went on 26 October, we were in Parliament. There were amendments to the Elections Act. The commissioners that are there were a byproduct of an interparliamentary group that was led by Kiraitu Murungi and James Orengo in the last Parliament. And therefore, the commissioners we have at the moment was a byproduct of these processes that we have already created.
Right.
Number two, we should also stop using IEBC as a career graveyard for most of the people, because in as much as the process has already started, we did amend the Elections Act. There have always been provided some elections, like, for example, I think it's Section 81 of the Elections Amendment Act and the Elections Act of 2012 and of 2017. It is very clear that we no longer need to use qualitative only. We also need to use quantitative in terms of decision. And when they talk about reforms, this Constitution itself is not only even a decade old, or more than almost a decade old, and yet we want to change the Constitution just to fit in to some of the specific partisan interests. But what we are saying...
Well, just before you continue, let's focus on the controversial election amendment laws that were passed in the middle of this election period.
But
and many said those were done deliberately, very selfishly, by the Jubilee regime or the Jubilee party to suit its partisan interests.
No, in fact, the president didn't sign. It came into force by operation of law that after 14 days, it came, and it was not used. You have to realize it was not used. And our friends have said they want to go to court to challenge. So let us wait. And as Jubilee, we respect the courts. And that is why they will go to court if they challenge and find that elections amendment that were done were unconstitutional. We will abide by that. But what I'm using this example that if NASA wanted to do any reforms, they should come to the platforms and avenues that the Constitution and the law has created. For example, if they wanted to amend the Elections Act for election reforms or electoral justice, what they should have done is come to the Senate or the National Assembly, lay the amendments. We are also Kenyans as Jubilee. Doesn't mean that when we are Jubilee, we can't reason. We reason and agree based on what we know it is good for this country. And those are some of the examples that we are using. That you know the problem we have is most of them, and I hope when we resume after the president is sworn in, is they have been boycotting both the National Assembly and the Senate side that you don't know whether these are ghost workers that we have. And that is why they are now delegated their work to the People's Assembly, because they no longer want to come to National Assembly or to come to Senate. That means they abdicated their role. And that is what, in this country, let everybody do his work. But the agenda that the president has said, one of his agenda after the swearing in on 28 Tuesday, on the year of our Lord of 2017, is to unite this country, because it's the symbol of national unity, and we are willing to reconcile the country. We want, because we know in as much as this was a democratic process or a legal process, they might have brought divisions in this country. And I think these are subsets, and that is why we want to move away also. As we unite the country, we ensure development is across. And I want to correct him when he said the president is only launching dams in his backyard. We have the other day, 39 billion in Kitui County was being launched, and that is where they will be going to lie, and 39 billion. I think Tuake Dam, that was even attended by NASA leaders, even led by Makweni, member of Parliament, Dance Man. So even in Rift Valley and so many areas, they are being these dams of ensuring this country is self-sufficient in terms of water is being launched. Right. So that is the narrative they always strive on, to lie to their people. In fact, finally, SGR starts from the NASA strongholds. This is not even covering Mount Kenya region or Rift Valley. So let us just stop lying to Kenyans.
All right. Okay. He does have a good point, Honorable Odinga, because funds are devolved to every county, despite, regardless of the leadership that it has.
I want to answer some. You look at where those dams are. The dam in Kitui was targeting some defections, and we can name them. Which dam is in opposition?
So what is your argument? What is your argument here? That the government is not searching development projects?
I think Mheshimiwa should be honest. It was signed before even the Kitui governor, who is charity. And number two, there is a dam that even Nani attended. One of your MPs called Rafael Wanjala in Budalangi. So it is in NASA stronghold. Rafael Wanjala is a member of National Super Alliance.
But let's move away from that as to whether the development projects, say in Jubilee strongholds or in NASA strongholds. More importantly, let's focus on whether Parliament's legislative agenda has been held hostage by opposition members of Parliament boycotting the sittings, as
I want
has
to talk
been
about
alluded.
the Parliament, and I can be very categorical to Kenyans here. There is no meaningful reforms you can achieve in Parliament today.
Why is that?
The Jubilee people you have here, they can talk of here, telling you when we go to Parliament, we'll be independent and discuss. These are voting machines. They are directed from a remote point. They are not themselves. So there is nothing you can carry to the floor of the House which will be representative enough to Kenyans.
So are you telling your representatives in Nyatike County that they elected you, but there is nothing?
Regardless of the argument I'll stage on that floor, they'll still vote as directed. So that independence is not there. If you want meaningful reforms, people who must take the lead are Kenyans, not that House. You're being cheated. That House is simply there to be seen and be directed by the powers. Like when you look at even that amendment we are talking about, which we are being told the president was not ready to sign it. Why was he not referring it back to Parliament? That was a tactical retreat. And it was done as was directed by himself. So regardless of the number of arguments we'll stage on that floor of the House, so long as they are still voting machines as being directed by the state powers, you will not achieve anything in that House which will benefit Kenyans equally.
So it is a big problem of trust, and it is clear, of course, that Jubilee has the tyranny of numbers within Parliament. Where then is this dialogue, this middle ground going to come in between NASA and
Let
Jubilee?
Kenyans take charge.
Is that because of people's assemblies, Honorable Odinga?
I'm almost saying that, but I don't want to talk about it because it's in court.
Yeah, he knows he will be charged with contempt of court proceedings.
Let's then talk solutions, gentlemen, because this is something that is worrying the country. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground where both NASA and Jubilee can come to speak. You do not want to go to Parliament. You do not want a Nusum-Kate government, of course. But where then, Honorable Cherargei, because Jubilee now is in power, how can you accommodate the opposition in coming up with a solution?
No, in fact, I seen my Honorable Speaker, Kenneth Lusaka, had said, when we were covering him in one of these bulletin, that as senators and even as members of Parliament, we have a role and a duty and provided for the Constitution. One of them, apart from legislation, is representation. And I want to say the tyranny of numbers we have as Jubilee is not a byproduct of dictatorship. We didn't go to elections on 8 August. We won, and that is the essence of democracy. Number two, when he says Jubilee are voting machines, we are not. It is that we are democratic. Even if you look even at the US, which these guys want to equate themselves, the Democrats and Republicans always based on vote on the principles and the ideology they believe as a party. Even in Jubilee, they have also their own ideology. And that is why you find even the aides to the Prime Minister and even the CEO, the likes of Norman Magaya, I have intel that some of my colleagues, even the Senate, when they want to come to Senate, they have been told boycott. So it means also they are being remote control from somewhere else, and that is why for him, he would like to attend Parliament, but because somebody has said don't attend. But the solutions we have in this country is that, as the Speaker of the Senate, Kenneth Lusaka said, there is a platform where all of us, let us come, as the Bible says, let us come and let us reason together. But because these people don't know that when we come and reason together, they will lose, because they are not interested, they will lose relevance, and they will not want to engage us because they know what they want is not what they will be on the table. And we know what they want is what they want, Nusumkate, and that is why they know when they come to the table, we might want to discuss the reforms, we might want to discuss to ensure that we have cohesion in this country, we have peace, we also bring healing process in this country. And they realize one of the agenda is not on the table, that is what they are targeting. And that is why they are now bringing the people and saying, let us use people's assembly. That is not the solution. And you said one critical thing finally, is that devolution in this country does not discriminate anybody. Because when money is allocated, the CRE, Commission of Revenue Allocation, develops a formula on money how to be allocated. I want to look at my neighboring county like Kisumu, which we share a common border. They have the allocations of money. What are they using to do it in Kisumu that the Jubilee governor, maybe in Kirinyaga, or in somewhere in Northeastern, or even in Uasin Gishu County, that they are not doing? And I think we have devolution already that can ensure that it works for the people, and that money has been allocated. And you know, it is shocking that my colleague here, who comes from also a county, that they don't want to hold their governors accountable in terms of ensuring that money allocated through devolution or through the counties allows an equitable development to happen at the grassroots level.
Honorable Odinga.
Okay, he's forgetting one thing here. Yes, we have devolution, where we anticipated resources will be devolved to the county. Is forgetting 85% of national revenue remains in the national government.
For all counties, not just Nassau Stronghold?
Huh? No, we only managed to devolve 15%. 85% still remains with the national government. How are we using the 85%? Let us not cheat Kenyans that we now have devolution and we are now getting development equally, when we only devolve 15% and this greedy lot remain with 85%, which they dish the way they want. If you want devolution to be the source of wealth in this country, let 85% go down. They remain with 15. Nobody will come in Nairobi and nobody will talk about presidents. We'll fight down there to develop our people. But so long as 85% is still remaining in Nairobi here, we still have a right to demand our share within the 85.
All right, gentlemen.
Finally, so that I clarify, Kenyans have also, they must also be, we must give them the truth.
Yes, please.
Under Article 210 of the Constitution, at least 15% being devolved is latest audited financial accounts. And therefore, as we talk Jubilee, within the last shot, one, they have devolved all the functions that the schedule had provided for execution. Number two, as we talk, 43% of latest audited financial of that in this country has been devolved. So as we talk, 43% of the national revenue has been developed. And that is where the Parliament now needs to ensure that we fast track in terms of auditing. Because that is the law. You know, the law is very clear. You cannot just come and say, let us use the revenue that has been collected up to maybe this month of November to allocate in counties. The law is very clear that latest audited. All
right, gentlemen, we don't have much time. Let's get your closing comments on this before we even get to, issues of devolution, especially after the inauguration of President Uhuru Kenyatta. You are representing NASA here, Honorable Odinga. You are the ones with the demands as the opposition. Very briefly, what is it the opposition wants?
As a leader in this country and an MP elected in this country, I want to make it very clear that so long as we still don't have fair distribution of resources in this country, we'll champion reforms to the latter. We are not going to sit in this country as strangers. We are not going to sit in this country as people who are called in. We are bona fide members of this country, and we are demanding our rightful share in this government, not only in leadership, but in resource devolution. Not somebody telling us, Nusumkate, we are not looking for any favor here. You talk about security. We cannot have a security which is killing our people, and we talk of changing from a police force to a service. If the service is killing our people, then we go back to the force and devolve it to the county. Let people take care of themselves. Let us take care of our own security so that we remain Kenyans and we be respected in this country.
Great.
If not, we secede.
Honorable Cherargei, how is Jubilee planning to incorporate these demands by the opposition?
I think, finally, I want to extend my congratulations to the President-elect and Deputy President-elect. And as he has promised, on 26th, we will wake up very early, all Kenyans from all walks, and go to Kasarani to witness swearing in, which is very important. And I want to say the commitment of Jubilee and the President's agenda is to ensure we bring national healing, national cohesion, and national reconciliation. And I think that is a national unity as the President has espoused. So I think from immediately after swearing in, the President will embark and the Deputy President will embark on a series of ensuring that we have unity is maintained. And I want to agree there might be challenges in this country. But the point is that it is not the only solution in this country is not blame game. And I want also to call upon our friends and brothers and sisters from across the political divide and all Kenyans of all walks that let us use the constitutional avenues that our laws have given us. Let us also realize that the moment we continue with perpetual electioneering period and politics, it will wear down our economy. We need people now. The exams are ongoing for KCSE, KCP have been released. We need our students to go back. We need a good environment. We need also business, which has been suffering for the last so many months because of these elections, to get back. Right. Kenyans are complaining that we don't have the economy. They are not having money. They are not having opportunity. But I want to tell our brothers, the solutions are not to secede. The solutions is not to call for demonstrations that at the end of the day claim lives, or you see opportunity, people are stopping, even Mama Mboga will only have a bunch of bananas. But as a country, as we want to extend and say, our brothers, let us sit down, let us reason together as the President has called upon, and we move this country forward. And as leaders, I want to call upon my brother. They should stop forming People's Assembly. Let us go to the Senate and National Assembly, have a national discourse, agree, legislate, and represent and move this country.
All right, many thanks. That is a good point to end this conversation. Honorable Samson Cherargei is the Senator, Nandi County. We've also been speaking to Honorable Tom Odege, who is the Nyatike Member of Parliament, discussing the resistance agenda in the country for the opposition ahead of President Uhuru Kenyatta's swearing in just 4 days. Now, this is KTN News Center. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at more news making headlines. Taweza East Africa is this morning releasing a report. We'll be taking a look at the content